been in Baltimore now 6 years now.
This is year 6. I think it's been, what are we, April 24. I was November of 18. So yeah.
Never
5.5.
5.5.
Yeah.
Hey, well, happy almost 6
Thanks.
years for you, Mike. Here we are, and you're still here, and things are great. Actually, the first thing I want to do, did you ever have, I know you're confident in what you do. You guys are very specific. But do you ever have any doubt that anything at one point, I'm like, could something go wrong? And the only reason I'm asking this is this more of like a life thing. Did you ever, or were you confident, hey, I know that this is going to work out here in Baltimore and we're going to see these great days ahead?
Yeah. First of all, I think a big part of our operating model is we have a lot of doubts about what we're doing, and we bake it into our operating model. So when we talk about players, when we talk about moves, when we talk to one another, we're very like probabilistic about it. And so there's like a humility from being in baseball for a long time. If you're really keeping score on things, you realize how hard it is. And so we try to have a science of how we go about our decision making that is cognizant of the failure rate in baseball for players and for scouts and executives. It's tough.
Yeah.
I really felt the benefit of coming off of the Astros rebuild. First of all, having gone through a really arduous rebuild and kind of having the scars that come from that gives you a lot of confidence. But also we had really spearheaded a lot of, there's kind of a big technological revolution in baseball the last 10 years, a lot of new technology available. How do you use it? How do you implement it? What's the right amount of use? And we had kind of gone through that on the front lines of it in Houston already. So sort of coming here, knowing what the right balance was, I think really helped give us a lot of confidence. But at the time we took over, we had nothing but problems in the organization. And, we didn't have international. We didn't have an analytics department. You're looking up at the AL East. I didn't know whether
it's not getting any easier in the AL East.
We just kind of did as well as we could, and we'll see where it takes us. And it turned out that we were able to win the division in 5 years, in spite of all the weird stuff that happened in 2020 and 2021. So, were we confident we were going to win the division? And no, but we were very confident in the process and the methods, and we had a lot of good fortune too.
Yeah, actually, on a side note, I'll talk to you off the air about it, but I still thought the fact that you took Gunnar Henderson to the alternate site in 2020, I believe, I thought was one of the best moves I can ever think of, just like bringing Jackson, because when you expose players to higher levels that you have confidence in and let them develop, that would be for a whole other conversation. That got me all giddy about it because it worked out well. And for them, they rose to the occasion. And I know that they appreciated both of those opportunities. So, but one thing, you're very analytical and you're very documented. But at the same point, though, you've made moves in the past that, and the reason why I bring this up, because I talk to the guys, they're still my teammates. They're my friends first, former teammates second. But you understand chemistry on a team, and you understand of the dynamics of a locker room. And the guy that I constantly heard the last 2 years that this team raved about were not these two high-powered players. Do you have an idea of the two that I'm going to reference here? No, you're curious now?
I'm looking forward to hearing, yeah.
Kyle Gibson and James McCann.
Oh, yeah.
And when I went down to spring training this year, I said, hey, and the guys I work with Zach and Brad, and we were talking about it when I went down to spring training. You'll guess the name I heard. And they're thinking, wait a minute, it's got to be a high prospect. No, it's the veteran guy. They said James McCann this year because he means so much to us in so many different ways, that whether he helps them with understanding themselves as young pitchers, helping the hitters, and bringing a kind of bond to the team. You can't quantify that data, but that obviously has a huge value to the team. And obviously you guys realize that.
We been very fortunate. Both those guys in particular, Adam Frazier last year too. It was a real winning-oriented veteran group. They were really kind of teaching the young guys winning baseball and winning habits, and that's gold when you can get it. And you do your best to suss out their reputations before you bring in veteran free agents, or I guess in McCann's case was a trade, but. You don't really know until they get in the door. We've been real fortunate with the outcomes on that front. We do put a little legwork into it, but like I said, there's a lot of luck involved too. And those guys have been terrific. And then even in the rebuilding years, Brandon and I, when we think back on the the veterans that we had, like they helped bring this group along. Like you start, with Iglesias and Freddie Galvis and Chirinos and Jordan Lyles, and just so many positive contributions from that group. And it was kind of incremental. And, kind of looking back on some of the X factors for why we got out of the doldrums, like you got to credit those guys a lot. So yeah, when you see it up close, you can't quantify it, but if anyone's seen it up close, you can't talk them out of it that there's something to it, right?
Yeah.
So we do the best we can, but it's not a science.
Well, that's the other part of baseball. That's just what I love with it. There's just things that you can't quantify, and everyone that's saying about, hey, you can have all the talent in the world, but we saw last year the Padres, you can buy a lot of money, doesn't mean the team's going to have the success. You got to have the right formula, guys stay healthy, and things come together. And then you say it's luck. I think it's more, they say once is luck, twice is skill. And you've been doing this for, I don't know. I feel like we've been saying the skill part now. It's like move after move after move. You're hitting the right buttons. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it, by the way. I think you're doing great so far.
I mean, look, I think, anytime you're talking about like a batting average on something, there's a lot of luck involved. So we're real mindful of that, but you try to put yourself in a good position to, have things fall your way over time.
Yeah, I mean, hey, just baseball, you fail, and that's the part that I always hated. You fail 70% of the time, you're still one of the best. For you guys, if you can get most of them right, it's going to help you for success. This is probably a fun moment. The obvious answer for you to stay in the last 6 years was winning the AL East and celebrating and the celebration to the clubhouse. I tell people, popping bottles and being a part of it, that's got to be one of the most – for me, that was why I wanted to play. I mean, yeah, making a career out of it, yes, but those are the moments you live for. For you being with the Orioles, do you have a favorite memory that people might not know? Maybe it's important to some other people, but specifically to you.
So I'm not great off the top of my head, so I can't vouch for this being my very favorite memory.
Okay, one of them.
But this popped into my mind halfway because of you talking about the playoffs and popping bottles, but also you just bringing up McCann, Frazier, and Gibson. And the story is, this is one of my favorite memories, or at least it pops in my mind. We had the game against the Rays, where it was a potential clinch game. And we had not, I think we were probably like 2.5 back or something at the time. I don't remember, but we were going for the division, 1.5 back. I think it might've been pretty close.
Yeah.
And we weren't in a position to clinch division, but we were in a position to clinch like the third wild card or whatever, but we hadn't made the playoffs yet. So it's kind of a big deal of coming out of a rebuild. So we had a meeting in Brandon's office before the game. Like, what are we going to do to celebrate? Are we going to do anything? Are we going to do nothing?
Yeah.
Are we going to do something in between? We had a big meeting about it with McCann and Kyle Gibson. And we sort of landed on, because McCann had been with the Mets the year before, and they were going for their division. They won, they clinched a wild card. They skipped the celebration because that wasn't their real goal.
Right.
And then they ended up sort of collapsing the rest of the way, and they never celebrated.
Yeah.
He was like, that kind of stunk. I don't know if we want to do nothing, but you definitely don't want to act like you're spiking the football when you haven't won the division yet, or at least that's what I was saying. Yeah. Brandon was kind of saying the same thing. So we didn't really know what to do. We landed on, if we won the game, we were just going to do kind of a subdued little toast and not a blowout celebration. And so that was how the meeting was wrapping up. Adam Frazier is walking by, wanders into Brandon's office, and he's like, "What's the plan?" And we told him, and I'll clean up the language a little bit, but
you don't have to, but you can do whatever you want.
He was like, "Forget that. We're celebrating if we clinch the playoffs." Anyway, I was like, okay, this guy seems like he knows what he's talking about, but we'll see what happens. As it turned out, he has an incredible historic base hit, the double down the line. It ended up being a wild walk-off, with Mullins walking it off, and it was just and so it was a blowout celebration in there, and it was just really organic. And obviously it was a huge moment for all of us that had done the whole rebuild and been a part of it. But damn it, Adam Frazier was right about that, and he deserves credit. And it was probably one of my favorite times here so far in 5.5 years, but we're hoping for more of that.
Yeah, see, like that's this type of stuff that you live for. And for a fan base too, like this is, I think what excites me hearing that. One, wish I could have had that experience, but hearing people talk about it, I mean, it means a lot. Like even you expressing that, I wish you could have used the explicit language. I have an idea of what Adam Frazier might have told you there and people can read between the lines, but that's the beauty of it, right? And that's the goal for the Baltimore Orioles moving forward. So to close out with this, because this is something that I asked David and my father about. We'll keep hearing next chapter of Baltimore baseball, right? And I'm not expecting you to have the answers on what it means for business on the baseball field, because that's something that we can't control. Or sorry, what we can't control right now. But for you, what do you envision as the next chapter here for the Baltimore Orioles for this 2024 and beyond?
I think it's pretty simple. We've got a really clear shot, and like we're doing it right now. Like we are. This is a first class organization that's doing everything right. We're going to do everything right. It's been the case here before that the Orioles have been seen that way, and increasingly so here again. And we've got a vibrant new local ownership group that's going to bring all that energy. We're going to renovate the entirety of Camden Yards over the next several years with this bill that's been passed by the state, and that David and his whole group will be tackling. I think it's an incredible opportunity and frontier for the team, but also for the city and what everyone wants to see here in the Inner Harbor. It's all going to kind of pivot off what's going on here at Camden Yards. And then, we've got arguably the largest concentration of talent in this organization that it's had since the 1960s or so.
Yeah.
And it's all in front of us. So, the sky's the limit, I think, where we can take this franchise in the next 30 years. And, a lot of that work has been done over the last 5 years, but I think the most important parts of it are coming up as we pull in the renovation and more of the rejuvenation of the attendance and the business operation and everything that Camden Yards can be.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing that I love is that this being here, people Baltimore love the Orioles. The community loves everything that's happening, and seeing the team where it is now. And personally, I always have a personal connection to it. Set aside that there's someone that I know that's a part of the new ownership, but specifically being that it's the guys I played with, and then knowing how much the people in this community care about it. That's what matters more than me.